Myths and misconceptions exist in nearly every part of our lives. Doesn't matter if you're talking about the spherical nature of our planet, the moon landing, or whether or not redheads have a soul. The point is, myths and misconceptions exist everywhere, and real estate is no different. Okay, if we haven't met, my name is Nathan Necochea. I'm a realtor with Douglas Elliman here in beautiful Orange County. Today, we're going to be going over some of the most prevalent, I guess, myths and misconceptions having to do with real estate. All right, we're going to get started with the first one, which is buying a new build is cheaper than buying a resale. This depends. Okay, that's the best I can say. Look, if you're going to buy a new build and you purchase it pre-construction, right? So the pricing will be based on whatever that current market is. So if you get locked into a price, you get done with your contract, they build the house, takes 6 months, a year, whatever it is. When you move in, the way things are trending now, your home value may be higher than it was when you bought it. So at that point, yes, it's technically cheaper. But if the prices were to crash or collapse, then you wouldn't be doing it cheaper. But there are other fees that you have to think about, right? So when you buy a new home, new build, new construction, what about landscaping? Is the landscaping included? What about all the upgrades that you're thinking about adding? Is it cheaper to have the builder do some of these upgrades and tie it all in, or is it cheaper to do it later on down the road using your own people? Also, builders will oftentimes have some incentives if you use their lender. So there's one particular builder in Orange County that I'm thinking of right now that if you buy from them and you qualify with their lender and choose to go with their lender, then your first year mortgage rate they were saying 4.5%. And then after that, you're locked in at 5.5%. Now, with mortgage rates where they are as of today, that's an incredible savings. So that could be one way to make it cheaper. Also, builders may have some other incentives. They may pay some closing costs. You may be able to save some of the upfront costs. The next one is that all realtors are the same. That's true. I'm just kidding. Anyway, all realtors are obviously not the same. So particular agents may specialize in different things: 1031 exchanges, divorce, probate, whatever it may be. They may be specialize in luxury. They may specialize, whatever it is. There's a lot. But aside from a specialty, agents also differ in how they think, how they interact, how they communicate. So if you're looking at working with an agent, I would definitely look for somebody that their personality is one that you can deal with as well. Okay? It's not always the biggest agent with the biggest team that is going to be best for you. What you may want is an individual agent that has a multitude of resources, a lot of drive, a lot of tenacity, that is a good communicator that you get along with. Because buying or selling a home can be and generally is stressful, at least in some sense. And so if you're working with somebody that you genuinely like, it does make it easier to get through some of those tight spots. And if their communication style works with you, it makes it easier for you in the long run. The third one here is that winter is a bad time to sell your home. Look, real estate definitely does have a seasonality, right? And as we go from fall and move in through winter, yes, listings decrease, purchases decrease, but purchases and listings happen every day, regardless of the season, regardless of the market. They happen. So in this already depressed inventory market that we have, the winter, I do expect to see inventory depress a bit more as we move forward, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad time to sell. What it means is that if you go onto the market, you need to make sure that you're pricing appropriately. Don't go back and look and see what prices were 6 months ago and just look for the highest. take a real look at what's happening now, price accordingly, market accordingly, and remember that the buyers that are out there right now are serious buyers. If they're out looking, they're looking for a good home, they're looking for a good investment. Just make sure that you're priced appropriately, and winter can be a phenomenal time to sell. All right, the next one is that you should only consider schools and amenities if you have or if you're planning on having a family. I disagree with this because I don't think that it matters if you're single and you're ready to mingle and you don't plan on ever, getting hitched, or if you're an empty nester. To me, I'm looking at down the road. Okay, a home is an investment that you're going to build equity in, and that you do have the ability to sell later on. So thinking resale, you want to appeal to the biggest number of buyers that you possibly can. If you were to leave out families altogether, that would definitely hurt your chances of getting the best price for your home. Take into account the schools and the amenities that are around you. It doesn't mean that has to be the driving factor, but if you're in a decent school area, it will help you attract families later on if you intend to sell, or even if you intend to rent the place out. All right, this is one of my favorite ones. If the lender says you can afford it, you should buy it. Absolutely not. Look, there's a complete and total difference between being able to afford it on paper and being able to afford it in reality. Look, if I have a $500 a day Starbucks habit, which I don't have, that's not necessarily going to show up on my mortgage application, right? Because I want to put my financial situation in the best possible light. So when I'm doing that, I'm not really putting in there that, well, I have to have all of this every day or that every day. On paper, I may look a certain way, but the reality is skewed by what my actual habits and practices are. So just because you can afford something doesn't mean you should afford something. All right, the next one is that there's no need to address repairs or renovations because you're selling it anyway. This is going to go along with some of the other stuff, but look, if you skip out on doing some of some of the work that needs to be done, the problem will come when the inspection report comes back, because buyers are always looking at that inspection report to see if they can eke out a little bit better price, or maybe get you to concede a different amount to do the repairs themselves. It's a very strong negotiation tool. So it's always better to take care of the things that you know about, because it's going to avoid having to renegotiate pricing later on. And also, it's just illegal to know that there's a problem and not disclose it. So there's that. Another one of my favorites is list high so that you can negotiate down to the price you really want. No, the name of the game is to get people through the door to look at the home, to create an emotional connection with the home and want to buy the home. The way the market is right now, pricing is the most important thing. If you were to add the COVID-10, what it does is it's knocking some buyers completely out of the running, and they're not even going to look at it. Right now, buyers are so much more well educated. Their tolerance for bidding wars and all of that is much, much lower. The problem that I've seen is that overpriced homes, it almost seems like buyers have been subconsciously trained over the last 3 years, where everybody was getting over ask and there were 50 offers on every home. It's almost like they were subconsciously trained to not, if they're not willing to pay ask, don't even bother. So listing too high is just eliminating buyers. All right, the longer a home is on the market, the more negotiating power a buyer has. Now, this one is a rule of thumb, yes. And right now, I think the houses that have been on the market far too long, or far above what the average days on market is, I think those are your best opportunity as a buyer. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the number of days on market is the negotiating tool, because there are a lot of factors that can go into this, right? Because when a home is priced, the three things that are going to keep it on the market are price, condition, and marketing, right? So what's interesting is that it's not necessarily that the price is wrong, because the price could be right for the conditioning and just not marketed well. The price could be too high for the condition and not marketed well. The price could just be too high for the condition. Or it could just not be marketed and the price is too high and the condition is awful. There are a number of factors, but the biggest thing is if the seller rather doesn't have to sell and isn't really super motivated to sell, the days on market doesn't really matter to them. If it doesn't matter to the person who's selling it, then it's not a tool that you can use as a buyer to bring down a price through negotiation. The next one is staging doesn't make a difference when you're selling. This is categorically false. Now, there's a caveat, okay? Staging is not just taking out your furniture and putting newer, prettier furniture in, okay? That's not just staging. Staging is decluttering, organizing, cleaning. There are a lot of aspects to staging that go beyond just swapping out furniture. Think of it as editing. Let me put it this way. When a buyer walks in, you want them to look at the dining table and say, okay, my dining table would look like this in that position. You don't want there to be so much stuff on the dining table that before they can even swap out the two, that they're going, well, I'd have to, first mentally they have to remove all the junk, envision what the view looks like without the junk. And I don't mean junk in a bad way. I apologize. Okay. But all the stuff, the knickknacks, the tchotchkes, the collectibles, whatever it is. I don't care if it's a Micro Machines collection from '88. You don't want them to have to envision the room without the stuff before they envision the room with their stuff. And now probably the biggest one that most people are hearing right now is date the rate, marry the house. This is a matter of perspective. Now, hear me out. A lot of times when you're hearing someone say, an agent or a lender saying, date the rate, marry the house, they're saying, don't worry. Interest rates might be a bazillion percent right now, but don't worry, you can just refinance in a year or two. That might be true, but it also might not be true. When I think date the rate, marry the house, I'm looking at it this way. Can you afford the home at the rate that you're at right now in perpetuity? If nothing ever changed, if everything else stayed the same, your earned income, everything, in a bubble, if everything stays the same, can you afford that until the end of the loan? Because I don't care what the rate is. If it's a home that I love and I can afford it, I don't care what the rate is. If you keep a home for 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to be on the upside. If I can afford it now and prices increase over the next 5, 10, 15 years, then it's worth more, which is great. And I've been able to afford the payments. If interest rates, mortgage rates never go down, right? And that's not likely to happen. I expect that over the next year, 2, 3 years, we're going to see rates starting to hedge down a bit. I don't know where it's going to end up. Is it going to end up at 3%? No, but they are going to come down again at some point. Don't make a purchase relying on the fact that they are going to come down. Look, if you're an investor and you can buy a house at today's rates and be cash positive, even if it's 50 cents cash positive right now, and you're able to maintain that, and then in 2, 3, whatever, however many years, months, days, whatever, you're able to refinance to a lower rate, now you're more cash positive. You just got a raise. Date the rate, marry the home. Absolutely. However, the context is what matters. All right, that was just a few of the misconceptions and myths there are about real estate that we hear quite often. If there are any other ones that you would like to know more about or like to get my opinion on, leave a comment down below. And please like the video if you liked the video, and subscribe if you'd like to subscribe. If you have any questions, my contact information is down below. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next time.